and today I'm doing the Shakespeare Journey Tag. This tag was created by the co-hosts of the Shaketember Readathon, Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, and Nicole from A Day of Small Things, and Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse. I will leave links to their channels in the description. Be sure to go over and subscribe to all of them. And please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if you love Shakespeare like I do. And please do follow me over on Storygraph and Goodreads and all the places. Question number 1, what was your first experience reading Shakespeare and what was it like? So when I was about 14, my parents bought me these new Folger Library editions of Much Ado About Nothing and Midsummer Night's Dream and Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet, but for some reason I can't find my Romeo and Juliet. I don't know where it is. I cannot remember which one of these I read first, but I fell in love with Shakespeare. And I read them over and over and over. I grew up where I did not have a lot of access to new books. I did not have access to a library. And so the books that I did get, I just read them over and over and over. At one point, I had most of these plays memorized because I just kept reading them. I wasn't trying to memorize them. I just read them so much that I pretty much had a lot of it just goes into your long-term memory after a while, you know. I really love these new Folger editions because on one side will be the actual text of the play, and on the other side will be explanations and definitions of words and explanations for archaic sayings or like Greek gods that, you know, they're referring to or something. So this is so helpful. You immediately get an explanation for any part of the text that doesn't quite make sense. And sometimes it has little illustrations illustrating something that is going on. I really recommend these new Folger Library editions. They're excellent. Question number 2, has the reading of a Shakespeare play ever brought you to tears? And the answer is yes. And then the second question, what scene was it and where were you when it happened? I usually cry at Romeo and Juliet's death scene whenever I reread Romeo and Juliet, and I'm sure I probably cried the first time I read it as well. They are just so stupid and hopeless, and it's just so sad. You just wasted your life, you idiot. So yeah, it makes me angry, and then it also makes me cry because it's just so tragic. Question number 3, are there any people that have played a significant role in your Shakespeare journey? Yes. My mom and dad, because they bought me, you know, those Shakespeare editions when I was a teenager, and that just sparked my love for classics. Yeah, they have definitely played a significant role in my love for classics and my love for reading because they always encouraged that and supported that and bought me books when I asked for them. Every Christmas and birthday, that was the only thing on my wish list was I wanted books. So I was very blessed that my parents really encouraged that. Question number 4, do you have a favorite book or film about Shakespeare? I do have this humongous, really heavy Encyclopedia of Shakespeare, A to Z of his life and works. I have never read this all the way through. Occasionally I will look something up, but it might be interesting to read all the way through it. So it not only talks about different Shakespearean characters, but it also talks about real life historical figures, you know, from Shakespeare's life, his wife, his children, people he worked with, you know, just famous people of the day and things like that. So it is pretty interesting. And it has a few interesting illustrations. This one is Hamlet, and an artist's illustration of the Globe Theater. I probably really should read this, but it's just humongous. It's just so cumbersome. Since this question does ask about a film, my favorite Shakespearean play movie is the 1993 Much Ado About Nothing with Emma Thompson. Much Ado About Nothing is already my favorite play, and I just really love Emma Thompson as Beatrice. She just has that sass and that, you know, she's just so much fun. She has that witty banter with Benedict, and it's just so fabulous. So even though that film is not about Shakespeare like the question asks, I just wanted to talk about it because, you know, it's my favorite. Question 5. Which character in Shakespeare most resembles you and in what ways? I had to really think about this, and I'm just not sure, but I think I would say Hero from Much Ado About Nothing. She's kind of that hostess character where she just kind of takes care of everybody and welcomes guests into her father's home. She just seems like she just wants everybody to get along, you know? And I feel like I'm kind of that way sometimes. I don't think I'm witty enough to be Beatrice, that's for sure. I would probably end up being much more of a hero, just kind of in the background and let other people talk. Question 6. Which play would you most like to see performed in a theater and why? So I have seen Romeo and Juliet in a theater, very badly acted by a college theater. And I've seen Midsummer Night's Dream done pretty well with really lovely stage props and just magical sort of delicate costumes. So I really enjoyed seeing Midsummer Night's Dream because it just seemed like magic up on stage, you know? But the acting was fine on that one. It wasn't amazing. And I've seen, I can't remember if it was Henry IV Part 1 or Part 2. And my main memory of that from like 20 years ago is I just really loved Falstaff's character. Of course, he just shines in those Henry IV plays. But one that I would like to see, I would love to see Henry V. Mainly because of that famous St. Crispin's Day speech. That speech is just so powerful. So moving. I feel like if it was done really, really well, I would just love to see that in person, in the theater. That would just be so amazing. Question 7. What actor throughout history would you most like to have seen play Hamlet while in his prime? I really just don't think you can get any better than Laurence Olivier. In, 1948, he played Hamlet. I just can't imagine any other actor being able to top Olivier as Hamlet. He just has that brooding thing down so well. And he's just fabulous. He's just so fabulous. Question number 8. Deliver your favorite speech or soliloquy from a Shakespearean play. So I had to think about this for a while, and I just finished reading Much Ado About Nothing, so these, little one-liner kind of quips are already in my mind. But one of my favorite spots, I marked it so I could find it here. One of my favorite spots is when Beatrice and Benedict, they're sort of flirting and everything. And Beatrice asks Benedict what has passed between you and Claudio. And Benedict says, only foul words, and thereupon I will kiss thee. And this is my favorite part. Beatrice says, foul words is but foul wind, and foul wind is but foul breath, and foul breath is noisome. Therefore I will depart unkissed. Of course, they have more dialogue and they banter back and forth, and eventually he does kiss her. But I would totally say that to a guy. I would be like, you know what? Foul words is foul wind, and foul wind is foul breath, and no thanks, I'm not gonna kiss you. I would totally say that in real life. That's my favorite. Question 9. Do any of Shakespeare's plays intimidate you? And if yes, what play and why? So none of Shakespeare's plays intimidate me now. For one thing, I've already read them all. But I do remember, kind of at the beginning of my Shakespearean journey, I was pretty intimidated by Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was the first history play that I read. And I was a little intimidated because up to that point, I had only read comedies and a few of the tragedies. So I had read Much Ado About Nothing and Midsummer Night's Dream. For the tragedies, I had read Macbeth and Hamlet and Romeo and Juliet. But I had never read one of his history plays. And so, I don't know, maybe just I was intimidated that maybe it would be like, I don't know, that it would just be different, that it would just be more serious or something. I was a little bit intimidated with Julius Caesar, but then I read it and really enjoyed it and just super loved it, and it just dove into a bunch more of the history plays. I read Antony and Cleopatra, and of course Henry IV Part 1 and 2, and Henry V, and Richard II, and all those ones, and just really, really loved them. Question number 10. What tips would you give to intimidated readers coming to Shakespeare for the first time? I actually did a whole long video years ago about how to read Shakespeare, and there's a few different ways that you can approach it. You can approach it in more of a scholarly way where you want to stop and analyze and figure out the meaning behind every little phrase, or you can just kind of glide through and not stop to think too much about, what every little ancient word means, or what every little phrase, what, double meaning is behind stuff. but you just kind of glide through and get the basic gist of the story and just not worry about it too much, you know? So I will leave a link to that video in the description, and you can go over and see kind of some different ways to approach Shakespeare depending on what you want from it. I also really recommend the New Folger Library because, as I've said before, they have all those explanations on the side, so that makes it really easy to read. You could also start with something like Stories from Shakespeare, which is retold in prose. So this has every play, but the whole play is told in like 7 pages. It's just summarized in like 7 to 12 pages or something. So you could read something like this, get the basic gist of the story, and then when you go in to read the actual play, or you go to see the play in a theater, you'll have more of a context to be able to figure out what is going on and maybe be able to enjoy it some more. I also have this super ancient edition of Beautiful Stories from Shakespeare. This is from 1907, and these are Shakespeare's plays retold for children by Edith Nesbit. She's one of my favorite authors. And so this was like, oh, this was so exciting. When I found this book, I almost died from excitement. And it's really beautifully illustrated. And every page has this beautiful border and some really lovely illustrations. And it's just simplified down for children to read. Some of the pages are falling out, but it's just so pretty. I just love this book. It's just, I never read from it though, because it's falling apart. So it's like, don't touch it, you know, but the poor cover is just about falling off too. But you might be able to find something similar. There's plenty of different retellings of Shakespeare and, you know, summarizing Shakespeare. So you could find something like that to just dive into and just kind of familiarize yourself. Dip your toe in the water, you know, and you might find you really enjoy it. And then you're ready to actually tackle Shakespeare's actual plays. And of course, I'm always talking about the wonderful manga classic adaptations of Shakespeare's plays. With these, you have 2 options. You can either get the full original text edition, or you can get the modern English edition, and then you can see all the action and everything in the lovely illustrations. I love these manga classics. I'm just talking about them all the time because they're so much fun. So that would be the perfect place to start if you've never read any Shakespeare and you're like, I just can't deal with the these and thous and all this archaic language. You could get one of the manga classics that's in the modern English edition, and then you still have basically most of the same words of Shakespeare, but it's just been modernized to make it easier to understand. So you still get all that flavor of Shakespeare without the archaic language. Question 11, which is your favorite Shakespeare play and why? And of course, that is Much Ado About Nothing. Much Ado remains my favorite. I have reread it and reread it probably like 20 times. I don't even know how many times I've reread it. And every time I just enjoy it more and more. And the reason why is because of Beatrice and Benedict. I just love their romance and that witty banter between them. It's just so funny. It's just so hilarious. Even though I already know all the jokes, I still laugh because, I don't know, maybe that's just like, this is my sense of humor or something. It just hits my funny bone. Please leave a comment and let me know what is your favorite Shakespearean play. And tell me why. What are some of your favorite characters? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.